Hi, this is Lane Herning, and we're going to recap what we've done in the summit today, and we'll talk about getting to know the new MasterControl analytics. This is part 2 of a 2-part series. The first part was the view. Now we're going to get into the edit mode within analytics. This is pretty exciting with the new analytics engine, all the things that we can do in edit mode. So as we mentioned before, there's big changes with our new analytics engine, which is JReport. We've updated the reports. They've got a different look and feel. There's 2 rights, the view reports, which we covered what that can do in the first video, and the edit reports, which we're going to cover now. Users with any report rights in the system will get the view right on upgrade. The edit right can be given then by the sysadmin for those people that they want to be able to edit and create custom reports that the users can go back and view as public reports, or they can create private reports that they can call on themselves. There will be a report designer, which will be a desktop application that will let you do even more things that will be available sometime in 2018, 2019. We'll also have a service that you'll be able to use to have our services people create custom reports for you sometime later this year. So you mentioned there's a view report right, rearrange columns, hide, remove, but all those things that you see on the screen right now are included in the edit report right. So there's the basic viewer screen, but you notice in the corner there, there's a button that says interactive mode, and we're going to click on that in just a second. But when you do, you end up with the view or the edit report right, and that's everything a viewer can do. Plus, you can add columns, you can add charts, you can add filters, etc. So pretty exciting stuff. And this is what that screen looks like, and we're going to jump into it live right now. So right now, as you can see, we've called up the master list. This is the Documents Master List report in MasterControl. We're in view mode. As we've changed a few things here, we've added info card subtype in the first video, a few things like that. We've hidden some columns, but now we're going to move into interactive mode. Now with interactive mode, we've got some additional toolboxes that show up here. As I mentioned before, we have the zoom, so we can shrink that down just a little bit so we can see everything on the screen. One of the things that I do all the time when I come in here is I change and I view my editing marks, which allow me to see what's going on in the system. Now what you can see here is I've got 3 sections to the report. I've got a header section, I've got a body data section, and I've got a footer section. Now the footer section has all the normal footer information, my time zone, the time, etc., the page 1 of 1 in this case. If I used my VCR controls up here, I could go out to the end and I could see how many pages I have in the report, 26. If I were to then print this, it would also update that and be in the printed version. But the things I can do now in the edit mode that I couldn't do before are things like bring in new columns. So I can grab a new column here. So in this case, I'm going to grab lifecycle status that's not in the current report. I'm going to drop it into the report. It's asked me, do I want to insert this? Because it's a groupable column. It asked me, do I want to use it as detailed rather than a group? And I say, yes, I do. And now it's stuck my lifecycle status into the report so I can see what status these are. I'm going to jump back to my first record. I can filter for status if I want. In the old way we talked about, in the view way I can do this, but I even got a more exciting way to do this in the current system. I can bring a filter control, which gives me some dynamic control over that filter. So I build this filter. I say I want to filter on the lifecycle status. So I grab that column. There we go. Lost it there for a second. Now what it's going to do is build me a filter up here. And I can manipulate this filter. I need to shrink down my text box a little bit so I can get my handle for my control here. I'm going to put this up here, and I can click on it again. I can grab the handle down here and I can resize it. And if I want to, I can resize my header. Easiest thing to do is go to properties there, and I'm going to resize my header, and instead of 2 inches tall, I'm going to make it 3/4 of an inch tall. Now it fits a little better, but now what I've got is the ability to dynamically sort based on that lifecycle status. So I can click on archive, I can click on draft. Everything I'm doing is live right now in the report, so I can leave that in there. I can save that if I want. I can also do other things in here. I can do aggregations. Aggregations are called dynamic resources. So I go down here, add an aggregation. I want to count by status, so I count. Do a count by status. Map it to the lifecycle status column, just as we've done before, and its a count. Now I've got a count that I can use in things. Well, what would I want to use a count by status for? Well, might want to do that for a chart. So let's grab a chart. We'll drag a chart in here. I have to make sure I get it in a printable area. Drag it in there. I'm going to do a bar chart. I get my chart wizard, and I'm going to use info card type as my category, and I'm going to use my count by status. And since I've got my filter, now I can have that filter show me exactly what's going on. So right now, I can build a chart in here, and because I've got the combination of a filter here and I've got my chart here, I can say, well, in the draft, these info cards, this is the count I have at each one. If I click approved, it's going to update my chart and my table of data to show me what's in there. Again, I can go to release, do the same thing. But as you can see, every time that I click on the different lifecycle statuses, it filters both. And so I can see this, and I can print this out if I want to. I can also see my legend down here, and I've still got my data down below. So this is an interesting combination of a filter and a chart. So really neat stuff. I can also do things like I can make new columns. If I wanted to, I could make a new column and I could aggregate things, or I could do some different math on different columns. So this probably isn't something you'd want to do, but I could create one, and I happen to know this one off the top of my head. It's called date difference. It's a function. And so I can say I want to measure this in days, and I want to measure the date difference between the create date and effective date. So I'm going to say I want the create date and I want the effective date. I want to do a difference between these. And now what I can do is I can check that, and it's saying yes, that works. That's a good formula. And I'm going to call this time for approval. So this is telling me between the time it's created and the time I get it approved, how long does that take? So I can create that column. So it's created that column, now time for approval. Now I can just drag that up and put it in my report. So you can see it's telling me, now this is a demo database, so there's some that were imported, so they have a negative value here. There's some that are done, but I can increase the size of the column so I can see my header completely. If I want to, I can create a sort on this. So I can click here. I can say, well, I want to sort on time for approval, and I want to make it ascending. I click there. It's going to resort. So now it's showing me from the smallest to the largest. I could reverse that and go back and click my sort again and say, show me descending, show me the largest value. Now it's going to be showing me the largest. So you can see the 0 days, because this is a demo database, that's the largest value we have. Anyway, but you can do all these kind of things in here. You can change any column headers you want. You can edit that data. If I don't want release date, I want release day or whatever, I can change that. Now, one of the things about changing column headings, which we all want to do, and it's been one of the things that customers have asked for a long time, is that these will no longer translate because you changed this from a translatable string into a literal. So you have to be a little bit careful if you've got multiple languages, but if you want to go ahead and do that, you can do that. We can also we can insert a label, so we can drag that in here and add additional text. We can also add an image, which will bring it in here, and it says load up the image from your local file, so I can do that if I wanted to. So a lot of things I can do here, and as well as do aggregations, create new columns. I can add new columns from the column list. Now this column list is chosen just as it was for the previous reports, so you can't add to this column list right now, but you'll be able to do that with the designer tool if that's something you're looking for. So pretty exciting stuff. Just wanted to show that to you. We don't have a lot of time, and we want to make sure that you jump in and start playing with this, but also look at the education opportunities available through the education group on analytics, so you can get really proficient with this and start creating great reports. And when you're done creating those reports, then you can do a save as, and you can save that as a public or a private report. So these are my private reports, or I can put it in my public reports, and then I can reuse that later and it shows up in the system. So this is a quick introduction to the new analytics. Hopefully you like it and it works well for you. And it's a recap of what we did in the course. So these videos will be available online at a later time. So feel free to get these, distribute them to your teams from the Summit website, or from the jump drives that we'll have at the presentation that you may have gotten. Thank you very much and have a great day.